Welcome to this week's lesson. We will be continuing our last week lesson, reproductive system in vertebrates. Here today, we'll be looking at the reproductive system of the most advanced vertebrate, which is the mammals. Here we'll be looking at the following learning objectives to identify the various parts of the male reproductive system and state their functions. We'll also identify the various parts of the female reproductive system and state their functions. As well, we'll also distinguish between the male and female reproductive system, and we'll be able to identify the structure of the male gamete, which is the spermatozoa, and also the structure of the female gamete, which is the ovum. We should be able to distinguish between the various eggs of vertebrates, or to distinguish between the eggs of a fish, the egg of an amphibian, the egg of a reptilian, the egg of a bird, and the egg of a mammal. We should do analysis and see the differences or advancements in these different eggs. Now let's look at the reproductive system of the female. If we look at the reproductive system of the female mammal, we have here as the ovary. The ovary, what is the function of the ovary? The ovary, it produces egg or ova. Now, apart from production of egg, the ovary also plays the role of producing the female sex hormone, which are the estrogen and the progesterone. These are the two female sex hormones. After the ovary, we have the oviduct. Another name for the oviduct is the fallopian tube. Look at it here. We have the fallopian tube. It is the oviduct. The fallopian tube, its function is that it is the site for fertilization. But if this ovary releases this egg, the egg stays here, it moves through the fallopian tube, which is the oviduct. If the sperm comes in here, it will meet the egg at this site where fertilization will occur. Fertilization occurs at the fallopian tube or oviduct. In our next week lesson, we will talk in details about this. Now, after this, after the oviduct, we have the uterus. We have the uterus, or which we call womb. The function of the uterus is that it is the site for embryo development. It is the site for embryo or fetus development. Now, if you look at the uterus, after it, will see the vagina. You see the vagina here. The vagina, what's the function of vagina? We always call it the birth canal. It receives sperm from the penis and passes it through the uterine cavity. Now, apart from passage of sperms during sexual intercourse, it helps also to allow the fetus pass out of the vagina during parturition or childbirth. And we have the cervix. The cervix, we said that the cervix is the mouth of the womb. Mouth of the womb. The cervix. The cervix controls the opening and closing of the vagina, especially during childbirth. It is elastic. It always contracts. When it contracts, it can be able to control the movement or the passage of the child during parturition. After the cervix, we have the vulva. The vulva is divided into three. We have which we always say that the vulva is the all external parts of the organs. All the external parts of the organ. Every organ that we can see at the external part, we say that is the vulva. The vulva, the clitoris is part of the vulva. What's the function of the clitoris? The clitoris, it helps to stimulate the female during sexual intercourse. It's the stimulator. Now, apart from the clitoris, we see other organs like the labia majora and labia minora. These are also parts of the vulva. They are also parts of the vulva. They allow the passage of the penis to the vagina. And apart from allowing the passage of penis, they also permit the passage of urine out of the body. Even though they do that, since they allow the passage of penis, they also allow the passage of fetus during childbirth. We have the labia majora and the labia minora. Majora, we have it here. Minora, we have it inwards. Now, after these ones, we know that we have these two. We have the endometrium, which is layers of the uterine cavity, the layers of the uterine wall, the womb. we have the endometrium. The function of the endometrium, because as you look at it, it is a mucous membrane. This is the endometrium. It's a mucous membrane. It lies inside in the lining of the uterus. So its thickness, its mucus brings about the thickening that happens during menstruation. So whenever menstruation cycle is happening, it tries to prepare for possible implantation of the embryo. That is the function of the endometrium. Now, if you see the myometrium that is found here is the middle layer of the uterine wall, and its own function is to induce uterine contraction. So when during pregnancy, it is the myometrium that is involved for the enlargement of the womb. The uterine cavity will keep on enlarging, and the myometrium will be bringing about the contraction of the uterine cavity. Ovarian follicle. The function of the Graafian follicle is that it's always a fluid, a liquid fluid cavity in the ovaries found here in the ovary. It ruptures during ovulation. And its own role is that whenever it ruptures, it will bring about the release of egg. So the fluid is the structure that binds the egg together in the ovary. So whenever this fluid ruptures, this liquid fluid ruptures, it will release the egg. It will release the egg during ovulation. Now we have the other one, corpus luteum. It's a yellow hormone. The corpus luteum is a yellow hormone that is being secreted in the body. It secretes progesterone. And its major role is that it is required for the maintenance of normal pregnancy in mammals. So without this, you won't have effective secretion of progesterone. So all these two, both the Graafian follicle and the corpus, you see them here, because this is where the secretion of all these enzymes occurs. We have the testes here. We have the testes. The function of the testes is that it produces the sperms. And apart from producing the sperm, it does the same work that the ovary is involved in to produce the sex hormones. The sex hormone here, we have the testosterone, which is the male sex hormone. And it's responsible for the development of secondary sexual characters, just like the hormones of the female sex hormone are responsible for development of the secondary sexual characters. After these testes, we have what now? Seminiferous tubule. Where is it? It's responsible for the collection and the storage of sperms, temporary until they mature. The epididymis stores and collects the sperms until they mature. So it's also responsible for the passage of the sperm from testes into the sperm duct. The sperm duct here is what we call the vas deferens. Either we call it the sperm duct or we call it the vas deferens. So the vas deferens is responsible now for carrying the sperm from the epididymis. Look at it, from the epididymis, it will carry the sperm from there to the seminal vesicle or urethra. And so you see that if the sperm is being produced, here, it will be stored here. It will be the epididymis will collect and store it and pass it to the vas deferens, and the vas deferens will be responsible for conveying this sperm to the seminal vesicle or urethra. Either you said seminal vesicle or you said urethra. We convert it for it to move through the urethra here. For it to move through the urethra. Now we have another one, which is the scrotum. What is the function of the scrotum? It houses the sperm. It houses the sperm. And when you say that it houses the sperm, that means that both the testis is being housed by the scrotum. So scrotum is responsible for housing of the testes. Secretion of seminal fluid is responsible for secretion of seminal fluid. Seminal fluid serves as a medium for transporting sperms. So this fluid is being secreted in the seminal vesicle, and the role of this fluid is to transport sperms, lubricating the pathway, this pathway that the sperm will move through. It lubricates the passage or pathway of sperm, and it contains sugar, not just sugar, mainly fructose. These sugars are being used or serves as energy, and that will buffer the reaction of the sperm with the acidic medium of the female genital tract. So it tries to act as a buffering agent. That tries to contribute a role of secretion of fluid. The prostate gland is responsible for secretion of seminal fluid too, that helps to activate the sperms. The prostate gland, the fluid that is secreted, the seminal fluid that is being secreted here, helps for the activation of the sperm, so that whenever it moves out, that it is an active spermatozoa. Stage of sperm for depositing sperm into the vagina. The penis is responsible for that. And the urethra itself, urethra, it aids the passage of the semen. The urethra aids the passage of the semen. And apart from aiding the passage of semen, both the sperm cells with seminal fluid. Remember this, the combination of sperm cell and seminal fluid is what we call the semen. So apart from the passage of these two, it also helps in the passage of urine to the exterior parts of the body. So these two things, the semen, which is the sperm cell, and the seminal fluid combined together, we call it semen. Now, and the urine are passed out through the urethra. We have the corpus gland, other organs that you will see in the male reproductive system, probably because the diagram we have here didn't capture all this. So we have the corpus gland. The corpus gland, its function is to bring about secretion of seminal fluid that buffers that acidic medium of the female reproductive system. So it has a role to play in secretion of seminal fluid. And we have also the seminiferous tubule. The seminiferous tubules they are just points. Sperms are produced within the testes. They are always found here at the point where the sperm is produced. That's where you see this seminiferous tubules. Now, if you look at this now, we have different glands that aid in the secretion of seminal fluid. We have the seminal vesicle. We have the prostate gland is there. And apart from prostate gland, we have the corpus gland too. These are at least major glands that we could be able to identify here that aids in the secretion of seminal fluid. Both the ones that we activate the sperm, both the one that will bring about buffering of the acidic medium of the female reproductive system, and even the ones also that will help in order to bring about the different reproductive processes are found here. Now let's look at the differences between the male and female reproductive organs. In the male reproductive organs, the gonads there are testes, and they are located outside the body. While in the female reproductive organ, we have the ovaries, the gonads, ovaries, and they are located inside the body. We have presence of testes. Here we have absence of testes, absence of ovary, presence of ovaries, absence of vas different, presence of vas difference, absence of vas different. Seminal vesicle is present in the male reproductive system. Seminal vesicle is absent in the female. The presence of penis, presence of vagina. It produces sperm. It produces egg or ovum. Now I want to highlight something here. Whenever you are writing this, please ignore this now. That the presence of testes here should be presence of ovary. So you shouldn't repeat these 2 points. They are just one. These two, they are just one. So if you write presence of testes here, it should be presence of ovaries here. If you say presence of vas deferens here, what should you say? Presence of fallopian tube here. To get. Okay. Now, if we look at it too, we see that here we have prostate gland, but here we don't have prostate gland. That's normal. We have corpus gland here. Here we don't have corpus gland. Here we have no oviduct here, but here there's oviduct. So here we have uterus here, but here there's no uterus is present here. No uterus here, but uterus is present here. Cervix is absent here, but cervix is present here. Vulva is absent in the male reproductive system. Why? Vulva is present in the female reproductive system. So sperm passes out through the urethra, but here sperm or ova passes out through the vagina if unfertilized. So you see the differences between the male and female reproductive system. About gametogenesis, which is the formation of gametes. And these gametes are formed where? In the gonad. Now, having known this, we have two types of gametes, which are the ovary and the testes. The male sex cell or gamete, which is the sperm or spermatozoa, they are produced in the seminiferous tubule, just as I said earlier, in the testes, to be precise. Now, through the process of what? Spermatogenesis. During spermatogenesis, spermatogonia, we keep on dividing in the seminiferous tubule. It will keep on dividing, several divisions will occur. It will migrate towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubule, where they undergo meiotic division. These meiotic divisions will help them to produce spermatids. This spermatid will then eventually grow to form this into sperms. So sperm production starts at puberty and continues to old age. It starts during puberty and continues to old age. Now the sperm, the structure of the sperm or spermatozoa as a unicellular structure in nature has a head. It's divided into three stages. We have the head. It has a middle piece. And it has a tail. A tail that we say that is whip-like in nature. We call flagellum. So the head of the sperm is mainly filled with nucleus. It's filled with nucleus. Apart from this nucleus that is found here, the nucleus is haploid. It contains 23 chromosomes in the head here, and the nucleus is responsible for carrying of genetic materials. We still have another structure that is found at the tip here. At the tip here, this structure is capped by a liquid-filled sac called acrosome. The acrosome contains lytic enzymes. These lytic enzymes, their major role is to dissolve the glycoproteins of the egg cell. It will aid to the penetration of the sperm. So when the sperm penetrates into the egg, it will be able to allow effective fertilization to occur. It is made up of mitochondria. This is the mitochondria. The mitochondria, its function is to provide energy used by the cell to swim towards the egg. So here is the part of the egg or of the sperm that provides energy for movement. The long whip-like structure, which is the flagellum, helps to move or propel the sperm cell. It helps to move or propel the sperm cell. When flapping its flagellum, it will cause the sperm to swim through the seminal fluid. The female sex cell or gametes are called the eggs or ova, in singular form ovum. Now, and they are produced through the process that we call eugenesis. The size of the ovum is very, very small. It's about 0.1 millimeter, but it will be surprised for you to know that despite that it's a unicellular cell, it stands to be the largest cell in the body, the ovum. Why the sperm cell is the smallest cell that ever existed that is found in the body. So if we have the ovum that consists of the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm is yolky in nature, it's made up of yolk, and we have the centralized nucleus. We have the centralized nucleus here. The centralized nucleus carries genetic materials. We know that clearly. And the yolk that is found here provides a source of nourishment for the embryo. So especially early stages of development. The yolk cytoplasm is surrounded by two membranes. You see that this cytoplasm is surrounded by two membranes. What are these two membranes? Vitellium membrane and the plasma membrane. Vitellium membrane, which is this outer one, and the plasma membrane, which is the inner one. So why at the outside of this you see a jelly? This is a jelly-like coat, a jelly coat that surrounds it. It is made up of glycoproteins. So this tries to protect, this long chains of protein tries to protect the egg cell. Try to protect the egg cell. We have the nucleus that contains the chromosome that carries genetic information. Since this is also a haploid, it contains 23 number of chromosomes, just like the sperm cell. So these chromosomes, they are responsible for transmission of inherited characters. What are the differences? Now let's look at the eggs of fishes. Fishes, they usually lay numerous eggs. We did that last week. They lay numerous eggs. The eggs are small and they are made up of embryo, yolk and yolk sac. While when we look at the amphibians, they lay many small eggs, not as numerous as fishes. Each egg consists of embryo and yolk covered by a gelatinous layer. A gelatinous layer always covers the egg. Remember that there is an advancement now when you compare it with the egg of the fish, because here you don't have any layer that protects the egg. That's why we say that here this process is always a wasteful process, because numerous eggs and sperms are wasted. When we go to the reptilians and birds, they lay large eggs on dry land. There's an advancement now because these animals, they are living on land and they have developed structures that will enable their eggs to survive. And these eggs are what we call amniotic eggs or amniotes. Now these eggs, they are made up of not just small yolk or embryo, gelatinous layer, but they are made up of embryo, yolk, you see albumen, embryonic membrane that consists of both yolk sac, chorion, allantois. Apart from that, they also have a shell and shell membrane that protects the egg. So if you look at this now, you see a lot of advancement. As they move from one environment to the other, there are series of advancement in their mode of reproduction and also in the structure of their egg. What of that of mammals? They are made up of small amount of yolk, but there is presence of placenta and embryo. These are the differences in the structure of the eggs of vertebrates. In your assignment, you will be able to highlight some differences, comparison between the sexual reproductive system in vertebrates based on these headings: number of eggs laid, method of fertilization, feeding of embryo, mode of zygote development, and the embryo development. So if you just based on these 6 modes that you would identify the differences, maybe in a tabular form, do them concisely, very, very well. Till we meet next week, where we'll be looking at a very interesting topic: copulation, fertilization, and development of embryo. Cool.